our dad. Uh, we are so grateful that everyone has given time today for dad. We are limited for time just because that's how the Zoom works. So I'm Tamra, Milo's middle daughter, and I will start first. We're all just going to share, and then we're going to move to Josh next, and then we'll call on everyone after. So we're just going to all take a minute, take a deep breath, drop your shoulders away from your ears. Yeah, thanks for being here, everyone. So, my family that's here in Minnesota, my hubby Ron, my oldest son Payne, my middle son Cameron, and my daughter Eliza Caroline is in Ireland. So, we will share and then we will pass the baton off to my Barons in Florida. And then Josh will pass it off to Lise and Bob in Kentucky. So my dad, unconventional, would have had trouble getting on the Zoom. So this is definitely perfect that we're all gathering on the Zoom. Thanks, Aunt Marilyn, for having this great idea. Uh, memories. Um, an agenda for the day. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. So agenda for the day will be we're sharing. I have a little slideshow. We'll light a candle, and then Uncle Dave's going to close us out with a prayer. And then time-wise, we'll just keep it to one memory. We all have so many. So we're going to start with Payne, oldest grandson, and then we'll move through our family.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight, or whatever time it is where you are. Shout out to Liza. I don't know if everybody can see you. Do you want to just say hi?
Hello,
Hello.
That's
it's
my sister.
Liza. It's
Yeah.
8 p.m. I'm in Ireland.
Okay.
I'm
So
happy
it
to
is.
be
It is
here.
the night for you. Perfect.
It's the night, I think, just for me.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. Okay. So memories about Grandpa. My memory about Grandpa was always kind of the magical aspect. Grandpa was an artsy. Uh, Spacey human. He loved to just be, out thinking about the world and he liked to, I don't know, give me when I was younger, we would go over to his place and he used to show me his hands and have me touch the joints in his fingers and tell me he had marbles in his fingers. And, I was 4 or 5, so I would believe him. And then he would pull a marble out of his mouth or something and be like, look, I took it out of my finger and then put it back in, these type of things where you're pulling your finger off or he'd take your ear or your nose or something. And but one day he took it a little bit further and he asked my mom, he said, can I do a trick for him? And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, come back here, come look, I have magic dust. And he went into his closet and closed the door. And I was sitting outside and we were all waiting. I was like, what's he gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna sprinkle some magic dust on my head. Watch what happens. And he opens the door and he had shrunk. Uh, he was on his knees with his knees in his shoes, but I didn't know at the time. So it completely blew my mind. Oh my God, Grandpa, you shrunk. It was the magic dust. It was just confetti that he had, but he had sprinkled it on his head. And then he closed the door and opened it again, and he was tall again. He said, this magic dust can do anything you want, any wish that you make, it'll come true. And for the rest of the time I was there, and probably for a couple years after, I would beg him to give me some magic dust, and he never would. Um, but he was always just trying to help me see that there was, something else going on in life, something magical, something more than just what's in this reality, right? He had that really artistic spirit, and that's something that I carry with me as well. So that's a memory that I share. I'm gonna pass it to my brother because he's right behind me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cameron. Nice to meet you all. Love to see everyone on Zoom. But my memory about good old Grandpa Milo is first off the oh sure. I'm sure if you know Milo, you've heard that just probably a million times, but it's one of my favorite sayings I've ever heard from him. And My favorite thing about Milo is just how much beauty he saw in the mundane things in life. I'm sure if you know Milo well, you've heard about his elk visits, but I've gotten a chance to go see the elk with good old grandpa. And it's not just seeing the elk when you go and visit the elk with grandpa. You get to notice the rock walls that are, built into the mountains out there. You're taking in all the trees and the clouds. And what really captured that best is I remember he had this old workshop outside of the house, or workshop, it was the garage, but I don't know if I ever saw a car parked in there. He had bundles of wood and wood and wood. And I remember I saw he had these just amazing charcoal paintings. And all of the paintings were of either dilapidated buildings that he, brought back to life inside of his drawings. And it was just one of the most detailed things I've ever really seen. And I just really appreciated that everything he saw in life, he managed to find the beauty in. And I really just try and take that to heart in anything that I'm doing. If I'm looking at the clouds, I really just try and take a breath, notice the beauty in life, and keep going about my day. So Milo, he was one of my favorite grandparents, one of the best, always there for me, and just a very kind man. So I'm very excited to hear all your memories today, but just know Milo always found the beauty in life.
Right on. Liza Lou, I'm gonna pass it to you. Just keeping on theme with the kids here. You got a memory?
Yeah,
We'll jump to mom and dad and pass the torch from there.
that sounds great. Hello everyone. If you can see me and hear me, I'm Eliza Caroline. I am the first granddaughter of Grandpa Milo. And keeping it short, right on my desk here, I can't see it very well, but I have this photo of me and my basketball, like me and like 8 years old, and Patty and Milo came to one of my basketball games. It's hanging up here in Limerick. But oh my goodness, I'm getting emotional. I'm sorry
Okay,
if anybody else.
hey, dude. It's okay.
Um, being the first granddaughter, I think really I saw the side of Milo, like being super supportive of me being like in sports. So them coming to a sporting event was super fun to be like a strong female. And so whenever we would have our calls growing up, we'd always talk about UConn women's basketball and all the women's sports. So he was always super supportive, big sports guy. And then going to UW-Madison, he's just always a supporter. We were the mathematicians. It was super proud that, we could do math and like knew how military time worked. So just keeping it short, I just always appreciated the support from him. And I'm sad to see him go. So I'm sorry for being emotional.
Don't be sorry for being emotional. We're all sad to see him go. That's awesome.
Love
Great
you, Will.
memory. We love you. Thank you
So,
for coming.
Lulu, we're emotional because we can't hug you. You're in Ireland. I will add a little humor just to help. So my memory is in Michigan. It's before Pink, Cameron, Eliza, and Ron came on vacation with our family. And he was like, "What do we do in Michigan? We're just sketching?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's my dad. We're sketching." Ron's like, "No, we're renting a pontoon. We're going on Crystal Lake." And I was like, "Okay, let's go." Grandpa's jumping off into the water. We're swimming, beautiful day. And then, Dad, let's come in. It's time to go in. Dad cannot get back onto the pontoon. And he's trying to climb up the ladder and he just falls back in and is laughing, laughing, laughing. Go back in, laughing, laughing, laughing. The best part of that is his face, and there's a picture of him in the slideshow. But he's throwing his head back and just laughing, laughing, just the purest, purest laugh of I actually cannot get up, and my daughter's husband's gonna have to help pull him back on. And he laughed and was on the deck of the pontoon for a while, just still laughing that he couldn't get up. So that's a good one.
That's great.
Dave?
Great memory. Milo held his own counsel for sure. He was an individual, but he also aside from being a romantic, I always felt like he was the father I never had. He had a nice way of looking at things that served me well, but he also, in a funny memory, he drove Chrissy nuts, which was somewhat amusing at times. And relative to Michigan, I remember golfing with Milo. He and I were in a cart, and Chrissy was in her own cart, and some little golf course up there. And Milo, he couldn't hit the side of a barn that day, but we get out and we're on the number one tee, and he decides he's gonna take out his driver to hit this ball, and there was no need for the driver. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm not going to play like a beep." I said, "Okay." So Chrissy's on her tee box, we're on ours, and sure enough, Milo gets up and he just toes it right off into the woods. Expletives start to fly. I'm on the ground almost laughing because I insisted he not hit that club, but of course he holds his own counsel and he's going to. In the meantime, Chrissy's yelling, "Milo, we do not say those words on a golf course." And I'm hanging out with both of them, like, what am I doing? This is awkward, you know. But it was just one of the funniest memories that I can ever remember with Milo and Chrissy just going at it on the golf course. And then, of course, that was hole number one, so I had to play the rest of the match with. And she had a great game, but either way, Milo, he's definitely, part of our world. We're gonna miss him. I'll pass the torch.
Perfect. We're gonna pass it on to Josh Beran, Milo's youngest son,
An
JB and
only son.
family. Yes. JB, you got us. What's up,
Hey,
JB? Ham.
great being here. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to everyone being here. Can you see this right here? This is one of the famous lists Milo would make. I think my mom probably started him on it, but Uncle Dave could probably set the record straight. And on that list was things he was going to get done. If it made it on the list, it would definitely get done. And the items that got accomplished most were keeping up with people. And so on that list would be, I'm going to Muscadet, or I'm going to Madison, or I'm gonna drive to Minneapolis. And even more specific, on that list was how to support the least of those among us. So if that was a client that couldn't afford to pay him, that person was on the list. And even at the end of his life, there was that poor guy, and he wasn't a poor guy. He was a Navy veteran, but he was just the guy that needed a friend, and he was Milo's wingman up until the end. And so that's something I know we'll all carry with us, how to do that, how to stand up for the person who needs a friend.
Love it, JB.
Thanks, Jay. Anybody else in the fam they can share? You're good?
Good.
Real quickly, my favorite memory of Milo is he might have been different the first several decades of his life, but for the last 25 or so that I've known him, he's one of the most relaxed adults I've ever met. And I really always admired that, as sometimes I wouldn't feel relaxed, or we wouldn't be relaxed, or the kids were crying, or what, and he just, it did not bother him. And it was really wonderful to be around him, just in that. How do you tune out the noise, and not get worked up about some of these things? And I really love that about Milo. The girls are being quieter today. Cameron, I believe you stole something from Mila, the old shore. And I said it can be shared. It doesn't have to be stolen. But we really love the O Shore and Good for You. And that really kind of resonates too with just the relaxed, positive, encouraging grandpa that he was to these girls.
Good for you. Good for
Mila,
you.
I'll give you a big hug next time I'm in Florida. I'm sorry for stealing it.
We love you.
We'll share it, Cam.
We'll share it. We'll share it.
I gotta just for so they don't regret not saying something later. Grandpa took really great care. I know with all of us on this call, but especially with these two girls, about picking out presents for them. And he found a little shop, and he would go and just he nailed it. He would nail the presents, and he might get some assistance in packaging them or sending them, but he was in there, and he was real proud of himself. And so it could have been a shirt with an elk on it, or it could have been the right art supplies, Elsa and Anna train set, and on and on. So I know if these two were going to share that, something they would have shared. So moving on to Lisa and Bob, thanks again, and we're real glad to be here.
Thank you, guys. He was always a great gift giver.
We will try to keep it short because I know we're running slow on time, and I want everyone to have a chance. As I was trying to think of what I would share today, one of the things that really came to mind was something that I think I didn't really appreciate as much until I got older. When I was in my mid-20s, and I would come home from grad school, and over the weekend, Mom would usually say, "Why don't you go to church with us?" And I normally didn't, but I did one time. And I honestly can't remember if it was college or grad school timing, but I went to church at Mount Washington Presbyterian, where Grandpa had been, and the minister that time was preaching about how different lifestyles were sinful, and how evil it was, and how bad. And it shocked me. Of course, I was in my very radical phase at the time, so I was quite verbal about what I heard. And I look back now, I really took Mom and Dad to task and said, "How can you go to that church, and how can you be a part of what's happening?" And to their very great credit, given having Beran Parlor and so much of our lives for years and years and years at Mount Washington, they agreed that they could not be a part of that. And we wrote a letter to the session of the church. We met with the minister. We met with the session and explained our concerns. And they walked away from that church and went to a different church that practiced what it was that they actually believed. As we're in this crazy world now and the crazy times that we're in, I think that can really be an example to all of us, because the church wasn't just where we went on Sundays. It was literally a lot of our support system. It was our social system. The people they socialized with and were friends with were there. It was a big deal in a way that it might not feel that way to us now, but to leave and to walk away. And I know that they lost friendships over that. So that was something that I wanted to share, especially given these times that we're living through, that doing the right thing can be hard, but it's important for your own moral integrity. And I think that's what they taught. That was a lesson that they taught.
Yeah, not to bring up another golf story, but I guess that's my best memory of Milo is playing golf with him in Hickory. Is that Franklin? That little course in Franklin. And one day in particular, I remember it was just like a perfect day, and we were both hitting the ball really well. And I think I kind of saw a different side of Milo that day, and the like what other people have mentioned about him being so kind and understanding. I'll miss Milo. I thought a lot of him.
Thanks again for everybody being here and sharing.
Uncle Dave, we're going to pass the torch to you, and then you can pass to the next one. We're going to pass the baton to David Beran and family.
Okay, Marilyn will go first here.
Oh, well, did you know that Milo was a movie buff? Recently, he and I shared our favorite movies. Milo, the older ones, mine somewhat new. And his films consisted of dark, shadowy characters in the black and white world. And they were usually Humphrey Bogart or George Raft, and they hung around bars in the riverfront. They kept busy tailing likely suspects and trying to find the dough. And especially the Lana Turner usually showed up, or Gene Tierney, for a little in their attire for some help for the detectives. My movie list of Forrest Gump and the Steel Magnolias was unknown to Milo, but he was interested in it in my descriptions of it. And then later, when he was more homebound, he caught on to an old but goody, what was it?
Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke. And there the sheriff kind of kept busy keeping his little western town safe and keeping the bank robbers out. And he was always glad when the sheriff stopped the gunfire and rode off into the sunset. Milo loved a happy ending to the movies. That's what I enjoyed with him.
I want to tell you a little bit about a childhood experience from
Pops, pardon me, can you scoot closer to Mars?
80 years ago. And this was Milo was I think I've got to call Dave Jones. I don't. Hello, David. Are you there, David? David? Well, anyway, I should just tell you, Milo, as you probably well know, was very interested in baseball. We lived on a dead-end street, so we were playing ball all the time on our street. And Milo was very interested in the ball player Ted Williams, who played for the Boston Red Sox and in the early 40s won the batting title, batting over 400, which really hasn't happened since then. So trying to emulate Ted Williams, Milo he was a right-handed batter. He started batting left-handed. Well, one summer, every summer we'd go to Muscadet, and on the way to Muscadet, we stopped for a couple of days to see Aunt Mary in the south side of Chicago. And right across the street was a school, Ray Elementary School, with a side yard with a big fence around it. And Milo and I saw that there was a ball game going on there. So we walked over and watched for a while. And Milo asked these young boys if he said, could I play? Milo was in the 7th grade. I was a much lower kid. I was it just finished the 3rd grade. And this guy comes up to Milo and says, this is Windy City softball, big softball. He says, you're from out of town? He said, if you've never played this, you can't hit this ball. And he called him Kid. Kid, you can't hit this ball. He said, well, let me try. So he goes up, ball 1, ball 2, 3rd pitch, left-handed. Milo sails it over the fence. He rounded the bases, came back to home plate, and all these kids gathered around him at home plate. They were kind of in awe, and they said, can you play on our team? Are you available to play on our team? He said, no, we're going to Wisconsin tomorrow. And he took me, and we went back to Aunt Mary's. And Milo never said a word about that after that. And I don't know if you recall, but early on in Ted Williams' career, he was booed for something that happened. I don't know if he made an error or what. So he had kind of a love-hate relationship with the Boston Red Sox fans, and he hit a numerous amount of home runs, but he would never tip his cap. And I think Milo even admired that about Ted Williams. So Milo not only wanted to hit like Ted Williams, he wanted to kind of be like Ted Williams. And that's the way he walked around after hitting that home run from that crowd of kids. So I'm going to turn it over to either David or John in sequence. Maybe David, you're first.
Really quick here, I do just want to mention that this is going to be recorded. So if anybody is missing something or has something going on, we're going to send it out to everybody afterward as well. So no worries.
Okay. So one of my earliest memories of my Uncle Milo was that he was really into telling all of us cousins bedtime stories. But Milo liked to do things a little differently. And we weren't going to be hearing a fairy tale or him reading Where the Wild Things Are. He told us the story of Daedalus and Icarus. And then we discussed why Icarus chose to defy his father's warning and fly too high. So we learned about the allure of defying gravity, laws and limits, and what happened to those with too much pride. When it comes to Milo's own writing, 5 words are seared into my memory. He pierced the Pyrenees, Paul. My dad first told me this line from a poem Milo wrote in college called The Conquest of Mount Everest. It championed the exploits of British mountaineer George Mallory, who, when asked by a reporter why he wanted to climb Everest, replied, "Because it's there." Mallory met his demise on Mount Everest, and it's a mystery as to whether he was the first person to summit. He pierced the Pyrenees, Paul refers to one of his earlier successful climbs where he challenged the heights and made it through the cloud or the pall. But the story and the mystery don't end there. Like Mallory, Uncle Milo reached for spiraling heights in his poem, The Conquest of Mount Everest. His college professor accused him of plagiarism. How could he have written something so impressive and majestic? So today we're all here celebrating Milo, going through that supreme veil. And I have some news to report. An internet search reveals that it's almost certain Milo did indeed write his poem. In the final reckoning, he pierced the Pyrenees, Paul. Oh, yeah. John, you're up.
Okay, that was nice. Hello, everyone. It's great to see everybody. Too bad we aren't all together, but soon we will be. Yeah, I think of something of Milo, and it echoes what Liza and also what Josh said about his support, about Milo being there. So I'm thinking of, of course, I have a lot of childhood memories. We all grew up in the same city, and me being one that's moved far away, I realize how special that can be to have all the cousins and grandparents all together. But I'm thinking of a more recent experience with Milo. We were in Chicago for Ellen Abney's wedding, which is the other side of the family. My whole family was there, and David and Amanda from California, and my dad officiated the wedding. But after those festivities were over, we went to see the cousins in the western suburbs. And I don't know if someone had told me or I just didn't know, but I thought we were just we went to Carolyn and Bob's house, and I thought we'd see Kathy and Roberto and the few of us, but it turned out to be a full-fledged like family reunion. Like Ben was there and his kids, Carolyn and Bob's kids, Kathy and Roberto came over, Dave and Ann. It was just huge. I wanted to ask if anybody has a photo of that occasion. I don't remember posing for one, but if there is one, it'd be great. But then at a certain point in the afternoon, there's a knock on the door, and there's Milo and Patty. And I was just floored because, well, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect nearly that many people, but also just, the drive, the long drive, and just really thinking about all the driving that he did, later in life, even through his 80s when, I remember my dad talking to him or my mom and dad saying, you're going to drive all that way alone and it's kind of dangerous, but he was up for it. So yeah, he showed up there and that was, like I said, I didn't know it was a reunion. That was like the surprise moment for me when Milo was at the door from so far away and Patty. So, we visited. I remember talking to Milo. He was always, very interested and a very good listener. We had great conversations about movies and music and sports and politics, all subject he loved to talk about and some of my favorite subjects. But this particular day, I remember him asking me about my work, and my work is kind of carpentry adjacent. I'm not a carpenter, but like when we get extra people in, when we have a busy day, we call those extra crew members extra hammers. So, and of course, Milo is a really talented carpenter. A lot of remodeling work at Bernie Lane. The playhouse, of course, and the deck, the finished basement with that barnwood is the wood paneling, and of course, Josh's room in the attic. And then he, I guess, he joined a crew as a carpenter with a contractor in Franklin after he retired. And so he says to me, how many hits does it take you to drive an 8-penny nail? And I'm like, I don't know. Is that a thing? Like, I never really counted. He's like, well, when you're working and you get in a rhythm, I used to be able to pound a nail in one hit. So, I guess that's kind of bragging a little, but, I've tried it. The best I could do was 4, but, that's just of all the things that Milo is and that he did, he was a heck of a carpenter too. And I know, a lot of his father was in him from that. Grandpa was a carpenter building barns as a young man before seminary. And of course, when I do that work, I feel like they're both in me. But I also just wanted to say, I just think it's amazing the driving that he did. I know he was at Ted's 90th birthday in Redwood Falls. And like Liza said, he would come up and see basketball games. I know Bob and Lisa are 6-hour drive and Josh is maybe 7 or 8 hours coming to Cincinnati a lot. It's like, I don't know. I really have a lot of respect for that, being someone who I kind of tap out after about 2 or 3 hours behind the wheel myself on a long trip. But, I just think of Milo just on that trip, he was with Patty, but a lot of times alone, just going forward, just on a journey. And what was he going to do? He was going to be together. He was going to be with the ones he loved. And I just really think that speaks a lot to who he is. So that's all.
Well, that's great.
Beautiful.
So, John Beran, can you, since you're last, I was worried about the drives, but I respected it too. Can you pass the baton to the next cousin and just we have about 20 minutes before Zoom will cut us. So pass the baton and then we'll keep going. Thanks.
Okay, who am I passing the baton to? Sorry.
You choose.
Well, is anybody
Can
else?
you see everybody?
Raise your hand if you want to talk.
You can choose me, John.
What's that?
You can choose me if you want.
Choose Ben.
Okay, Ben.
So I wanted to extend my mother, Mary, and my dad, Steve, their greetings and condolences. My mother is exiting the hospital today after her second knee surgery. She's going to the physical therapy clinic, I think, for a few days, and she seems to be really on the mend. So that's terrific. She wishes she could be here, but she is in the middle of transport. We always really enjoyed having Milo. I remember having dinners on Exeter Street with Milo and Josh Schold and Josh Beran and his family way back when. And my distinct memory of Milo was when I was 15 years old. I had just gotten my driver's permit. And Milo says to me, he goes, well, you know, I drive a stick shift. I said, no, not really. A little bit up at the lake, maybe. And he goes, well, a young man should know how to drive a stick shift. And you're in luck because I've got a rental car. And so we can grind the gears until you learn how to drive it. So we were out driving and I got it down pretty well. You know, I'm squealing the tires. He goes, okay, well, that's good. But now we need to learn how to downshift because you should never have to use your brake. And so grinding through the gears, downshifting through all those gears. And so I'll always remember that. And what a free spirit. Who cares? It's a rental. It's not mine. So that was just a wonderful memory of being a real, as my father would say, a bon vivant, kind of being his own man. He talked a lot about being at the military academy, the Naval Academy, and knowing John McCain. And John graduated last in his class and was really probably not all that popular all the time, but went on to do good things in the Senate, obviously. And an interesting topic that we always kind of brought up with a little bit of mystery with Milo, and maybe Josh Schold can kind of comment on that is, you know, we found it very interesting that he was in Czechoslovakia in the early 60s, right before the mid 60s, maybe right before the Russians came in, because my parents were there right after that. And being in that part of the world was pretty remarkable. And so I remember Milo as very much as a bon vivant and showing up places completely unexpected and not knowing exactly how he got there because it was so remarkable. And we think that that's wonderful.
Ben, you stole mine because I was going to say that. My memory of Milo is just you never knew if he was going to come, but then he would just pop in. And it was always so much fun to see him because he was always such a great person and such a fun guy to have around.
We always wondered if he parachuted in at times.
Yeah.
He would always pop up randomly. He's the best at showing up and surprising people. We did kind of mess up the timing a little bit. We do have a 5-minute video at the end that we did want to show some photos. So we only have about 10 minutes left. If we could get just a couple more people to share. Jim, I saw you up in the corner. You were raising your hand. Did you want to share a memory? Thanks, Ben.
I'm Jim Beran out here in Montara, California, and I'm representing the Joe Beran family, who is quite numerous. So I'm going to try to compress everybody's comments into a short presentation. Joe was an older brother of Milo's father, Milo, and they did work together as carpenters, building those barns in Minnesota. Now, we used to call Milo Richard. Nobody's mentioned why we did that, but I'm just going to call him Milo today. And some of the other descendants of Uncle Joe have shared their memories with me. They used words like very personable, very communicative, interesting, and interested. very engaging. These are things that my cousins Millie and Linda and my sisters Kate and Liz brought up. And they have memories of specific occasions when Milo helped them out or had a very interesting conversation during a ride, for example, from our farm at Clements, Minnesota to the airport in Minneapolis. I have a couple of anecdotes I could tell, but I'm going to limit myself to one. I'm going to skip the one about the sky hook that he was sent to get from the local lumber yard when he was helping on the farm one summer. For those of you who don't know, there isn't really such a thing as a sky hook, but it took Milo a little while to figure out the joke was on him. But we've mentioned that he spent time in Czechoslovakia back in the 60s or 70s. And my cousin Bob Shaw shared a story that he had heard probably directly from Milo. Milo became fluent in Czech, or relatively fluent, when he was in, I believe he lived in Prague for a while. And Czech, as you may know, is a difficult language. Czechoslovakia was a communist country at that time. It was allied with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. So the Czech government was suspicious of American visitors, perhaps even more so for visitors with Czech names like Beran. The story goes that Milo was traveling and was stopped by officers who asked for his passport. After they looked at it, they talked among themselves in Czech. They didn't know that Milo could understand them. And to his surprise, they seemed to know his whole life story. But he kept his wits about him, didn't let his surprise show, which was wise. After a short delay, the officers let him continue on his way. And when Milo and I would talk by phone, such as on his birthday, our conversations would end with a Czech goodbye. Na shledanou, Milo.
Thanks, Jim. We do really. You want to?
I wanted to speak. Oh, someone else?
Oh, you're good. You can be the last ones.
Oh, I'm wanting to represent the cousins, the Beran cousins. And I did talk to Stephanie, Frank's wife, and to my sister Mary. And we all remember a last opportunity we had to talk to Milo. Several of you have talked about how he dropped in, and that was another occasion just like that. He came to Frank's memorial, no plans in mind necessarily, but confident that something would work out, and it surely did. We, Mary and Steve and Dave and I and Stephanie had wonderful conversation with Milo at that occasion. And we reminisced about old times, of course. One thing I wanted to mention is baseball, because several of you did. When Milo would arrive in Muscadet, he would take David and Frank out into the back lot to play baseball. And that left Mary and me to go in the house and do household chores while they were out playing. As you can imagine, I wasn't too happy about that. And as an adult, we had a very serious conversation about that. And I expressed to him what that had made me feel as a young girl not to be included. And I'm hoping that in some ways that changed his ideas. It certainly was fun to relate to him as a lover of the arts, jazz music, old movies, painting, writing, and always a very stimulating conversation. I hope there's a picture of him in his naval uniform because he
Okay,
was
let's do the slideshow though.
Sorry, I have to move us on to the slideshow. I know
Yes.
we should have done it like 10 more minutes, but we're gonna move on. We've got some photos and then we're gonna have some closing remarks. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody who did share. Let's take a look here. Sorry to cut it short, but we have
Limited on time.
we are limited on time. Can everybody see this video?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Let's take a look.
She said Natch.
that grass and they. At the shoulder, they look to be about 5 feet.
Right, we're gonna pass it back to Uncle Dave for the prayer. Uncle Dave,
Let's pray.
take it away.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we're grateful that we could be together on Zoom, be together as a family, and remember many great times together. We're thankful for the traditions of our family, for our Czech heritage, our heritage in Muscadet. We're grateful for all of our memories. We're thankful for the life that has been given to each one of us and the resurrection. And let's remember what Milo always reminded me of, that life goes on. And he will.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for being here for Milo. We're gonna light a candle, and then we're gonna take our leave.
Thanks a lot for putting us together.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. It was beautiful.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. We're sorry if you didn't get to share, but we love that everyone was here. Memories we'd heard, memories we hadn't heard. We're grateful. Goodbye from Minnesota. Goodbye from Ireland, Kentucky, Florida, Ohio, California. Josh Scholl, you zooming in from
Florida.
From the Baltic.
From the Baltic.
Poland.
Thank you, Ben, Carolyn. Thanks, everyone.
Bardzo blisko czeski.
Thank you.
Ile husky then.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah.
Milo touched so many lives.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. We'll send out the recording.
It has so many generations.
Yes. Mila,
Okay, sounds great.
you send us out with a good for you. I'll do it with you.
Good for you.
Good for you. Love you guys.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.